Travel back in time with me to 1975 and experience the ultimate comic book art event. Hi everyone and welcome to Still Only 35 Cents, your regular dose of vintage comics and collectibles. For this one, I found one of the most obscure pieces of comic book memorabilia. A snapshot of one of the most wonderful comic art events in New York, right here in Australia. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button and ringing the notification bell for future videos just like this one. This weekend I attended my favourite local comic book event, the Yarraville Comic and Toy Fair here in Melbourne. For those of you who've watched the channel regularly, I both sell and attend this event on a regular basis. But this one was a little different, because in the midst of all the keys, I found one of the most amazing pieces of comic book history. But before we get onto that, let's check out the Yarraville Comic and Toy Fair this time around. As you can see, it was a great event, but the real standout for me was finding the 1975 Comic Art Convention Guide. As a bit of background, organised by legendary unsung hero of comics Phil Seuling, the 1975 Comic Art Convention was a historical comic convention that brought together industry titans with fans, roughly 1,000 in attendance. Here they were able to interact directly with a host of legendary artists like Jack Kirby, Jim Steranko, Joe Sinnott and young upstarts at the time, John Bryne, Barry Windsor-Smith and Walt Simonson, as they were walking the aisles or seated at their tables selling art. Essentially, this was Heroes Con of the Bronze Age. The Comic Art Convention took place annually in New York City over the Independence Day weekend from 1968 to 1983. However, there were exceptions to this New York tradition. In 1977, the convention was hosted in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and the 1978 and 1979 editions were held in both New York and Philadelphia. This edition of the convention program book features a fabulous Jack Kirby art cover and to this day remains a prized treasure for collectors, capturing the vibrant creative energy of the event and the era with features including some unique panel discussions and interviews. So let's take a look inside this great little piece of comic history. So here it is, folks, the 1975 Comic Art Convention Guide, featuring this great Silver Surfer cover by Jack Kirby himself. Beautiful design, great colours, striking. On the back, you would have noticed from the previous video, this advertisement for Vampirella and a major motion picture now in production from Hammer Films. Originally scheduled for 1976, this movie unfortunately never got made due to issues with Hammer Films at the time. But it would have been great to see Vampirella on the big screen back in the 70s. So let's take a look inside. Fabulous to see some great contents. A great piece on the 1940s by Phil Seuling himself. And an advertisement for Phil Seuling's comic book marketplace held every month. As mentioned, we've got some great interviews, and this one looks to be a session between Phil Seuling, Joe Simon, Stan Lee, and Roy Thomas. What a great panel. And there's Roy Thomas himself. Imagine having a table with Roy Thomas, Stan Lee, and Joe Simon. I do love this. This convention is dedicated to someone admired and looked up to by even the best of the professionals, the comic book reader. Once again, we get another article, this time the 1950s, written by Roy Thomas himself, telling the story of the Comics Code. A great DC celebration ad. And a guide to the hotel floor. Love this. Marvel Explosion is just the beginning center spread as well. Shame we can't spread that out, but that looks great with all of Marvel's favorite characters. A great piece on the 1960s by Paul Gafford and Paul Levitz. And this one was interesting to me, a colouring book called The Monsters by Phil Seuling. A great little book with a Berni Wrightson cover there. Look at that. A great Women in Comics photos from previous events. And a Charlton piece featuring Olive Oil, Winnie the Witch, Arachne, Countess von Blood, and Pebbles. A great one where they hosted disabled comic book fans. I think that's a great initiative. A bit of Bob Kane art there of Batman. Fabulous. A mad ad. Early CosPlay, love this, particularly the Swamp Thing on the left. But wonderful stuff. So CosPlay was still a thing even back in those days. Brief article by Tony Despotto on the original art market. And the piece that I was looking forward to, this great Jack Kirby interview piece within this guide, who was guest of honor at the event. As well as Jack Kirby, we get a Barry Windsor-Smith back when he was still Barry Smith. Obviously well known at the time for his work on Conan the Barbarian. Some of the personalities at the event. And my favourite, sadly incomplete, is the autographs page. Some of these, if you can pick them up, will feature some original autographs from many of the artists at the event. It would be great to get some of the creators signing this who are still with us today, such as Walt Simonson. And if they ever do the convention circuit, John Bryne and Barry Windsor-Smith. And then to close us out, this great Warren set of ads with Vampirella, Cousin Eerie, and Uncle Creepy and the Spirit, as well as the 1975 Famous Monsters convention from Warren Publishing. And that's it. What a great book to pick up for only $20. So that's it. I really hope you enjoyed this very different look at the Yarraville Comic and Toy Fair and the unique 1975 Comic Art Convention Guide. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this great little book and the history behind it. If you could travel back in time, which artist would you want to meet back in those beautiful Bronze Age halcyon days? Let me know in the comments down below. And with that, thanks as always for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all next issue. Don't forget to check out other great videos, as well as follow us on Instagram, Facebook and X. We also host a weekly live stream, the Merry Monday Mail Call Show, every Monday morning at 7:30 AM Australian Eastern Time. Nuff said.